Good afternoon, good morning, Dr. Steve and Dr. Tim here, the Ouch Doctors. We are so excited because this is a milestone for us. This is our first live show with a guest, not counting our launch party, but we've got a very special guest for you today, our friend Christy Jones. Christy is a fascinating woman who's got a really interesting background in teaching mindfulness and mindfulness movement to school kids, and also teaching about gut health, which is a whole area we haven't really gone into. And I'm super excited, Dr. Tim. What about you?
I'm thrilled with this, and she's speaking to the right audience. If she's speaking to school kids, I can say that.
Right on. So we're gonna get to talk about some elements of health and well-being and pain control that we haven't really covered very much yet. And I'm super excited. So I'm gonna bring Christy in with us right now. And Christy, hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me on today. I'm so excited to join you.
It's a thrill to have you here. This is so exciting. And Christy and I got to meet through another mutual friend, and then we've had some great conversations. And she even did a little bit of her work with me and put me through a couple of her exercises, and I found them fascinating. As somebody who's done a lot of work in mindfulness, it's cool to see somebody who's actually taken this to the mainstream and incorporated elements that are attractive to kids too, so that they're able to imbibe and understand it. Talk a little bit about that first, the mindfulness movement piece.
Well, I would say for me, how I even became interested in mindfulness movement, and this was something you were asking me, Dr. Tim, is how did I get started in this?
Yeah.
My middle daughter was really sick when she was young, and that was about 12 years ago. She started having major stomach aches, couldn't eat, spent about 3 months really in bed, missing school. And every time her stomach hurt, her head hurt. And every time her head hurt, her stomach hurt. And took her to a traditional doctor, and they really wanted to put her on antidepressants at 11 years old. And I realized that was not as we know, that's a Band-Aid. You guys are great at understanding these Band-Aids that we have to remove so we can get to the root of the problem. And so I was lucky enough to be introduced to a woman that taught us, she did something called a live blood analysis. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yes. But
she was able to look at her blood and say, it looks like she probably has an ulcer. If you change how you eat, and you start changing things around, you can actually help her. She goes, I'm not a doctor, but that's what it looks like to me. And so it was amazing that we started changing how we ate. At that time, I didn't know the impacts of stress, but it was just amazing to see how her body, how she changed. We had to deal with a lot of stress and things like that as well, too. And I realized if this is going on for her, and we actually already ate pretty healthy, what's going on for other kids? How are other kids being impacted? And so that's really what put my interest in schools. But first I realized, okay, how do I help my daughter heal her own body? Part of it was nutrition. So she's been my best teacher of how do we heal the body? So food was part of it. But then what I didn't realize was the impact of stress, the impact of our thoughts. And so, as I launched my own health coaching practice, I realized I needed to, really focus on this brain-gut connection. And then through that, I was introduced to a program that helped bring mindfulness into schools. And I realized, oh my gosh, I benefited from this. And I was like, if I benefit, every teacher needs this, the kids need it. And so that's where it kind of evolved from there of we're realizing that we're really at 46% of our kids with chronic illness. Mm-hmm. And how do we start helping them? We've got to teach them to start listening inside, that wisdom inside, to slow themselves down, start listening to that body wisdom that you teach about, that mind-body connection. That's the only way we're going to really help our kids. And so I've been lucky enough to be able to bring that into many different school districts. And it's fun, right? It's all about having fun as well, too.
Well, you've got that personality, that effusive, fun personality that I'm sure really attracts the kids and makes them want to learn more about this. And as I listen to you, I think about, every now and then we get somebody who takes a negative view of our alternative way of doing things. And because we're not modern medicine, this must be all quackery.
You're not.
And it, I get irritated by that. Obviously, sometimes I get triggered by that because we've got such an opportunity to help people and help them change. Whereas medicine over the course of the years has ignored all of this stuff.
Yes.
So seeing somebody like you, it's like you've kind of gone onto the battlefield. You're in mainstream.
Yes,
taking
and
principles.
here's the thing. I mean, what I love is that you guys help people help themselves.
Yeah.
We're giving them the power, right?
Right.
Which is what's needed. And I always say, like, when people think what we do is weird, we're right on track, right? We're getting, like, think it's weird. We're getting that attention, like, talk about it.
Right.
And so we know we're doing the right thing when we've got people that are like, what? We know we're on track.
So, Christy, we hear so much today about the microbiome, and in a nutshell, can you explain what the gut-brain connection is in a nutshell?
And I don't know if I can do a nutshell, but let me try and explain a little bit. Something that most people don't realize is the importance of our intestines. And little did I know that I would focus so much on our intestines. Is that like the least attractive part of our body? Like, let's talk about our intestines, right? But our gut, our intestines are in charge of 75 to 80% of our immune system. 90% of our serotonin, which so often we think serotonin's in our brain, but science has discovered it's in our gut. And then 50% of our dopamine. And so we can start understanding that so much of our health is coming from our gut, so then we've got to look at, well, what impacts our digestive system? One is going to be the foods we eat. We know those bacteria, those microbiome, we've got, thousands, if not million bacteria in our gut. And when we have healthy bacteria, then we're going to have a healthy immune system. When we're craving things like sugar and we're eating processed foods and things like that, and we're under a lot of stress, that actually helps the unhealthy bacteria thrive. And so we're really looking at creating this balance of healthy bacteria. And we can tell by how we're treating ourselves and the things we're craving, what balance we might have. And really modern life has decreased those healthy bacteria. Being disconnected from nature, being inside, eating processed foods, stress, actually ice water, sometimes like that. I mean, there can be benefits of cold and then there's benefits of hot. But, those things, our gut bacteria, our healthy gut bacteria, like warm. They need to be warm to thrive. And we need it to be exposed in nature because it's literally being outside in nature and fresh air where we can get it. That's the challenge these days. We're breathing in different bacteria that's going down and building our gut.
So interesting.
Isn't it? It's amazing. One of the things that you said that really, blows my mind, and you just kind of said it in passing, is, the idea that when you crave sugar, it's those bacteria that are craving the sugar. It's like they're the drivers of this vehicle, and you're the vehicle, and they're taking you where they want you to go.
And they're powerful.
That blows my mind. I first learned about that on like an NPR show about this remarkable relationship between the parasites and their host, that they essentially take over, and they're essentially creating the draw or the drive, and we're just like unwitting pawns in their game.
Right. We're just going along, right, with the flow.
Wow.
They're really the ones in control. And especially in this time, people start realizing that they have some power to build a healthy gut. And that's why I put into movement, because not only is our gut affected by we always look at the physical body.
Yeah.
But we've also got our emotional body that surrounds us. Some people call it their aura. Some people call it their mind. But we've got this energy. We realize we have this energy field that's around us. And so that energy field contains our subconscious mind, our conscious mind, our emotions, our behaviors, our habits, our imagination. So if we're holding a lot of anger, right, it's not only in our physical body, but it's literally in our energy field. And so whenever I'm looking at what somebody's experiencing or they've got going on digestively, right, if they're not processing life, if they're not letting go of things in life, it's going to affect their digestive system, right?
So it's both cause and effect, is what you're saying. Is that?
Yeah. So we've got to look at what someone experiencing emotionally, right, is going to have a physical impact on their physical body and especially their digestive system.
So now, being outdoors, and I kind of think about forest bathing, which is kind of a trendy phrase these days. That's one of the things that you recommend for a healthy microbiome, is to take in these plant chemicals. What are 2 or 3 other things that we can all do? Besides getting outside in nature? I mean, getting outside, exactly.
Everyday grounding. The more diverse places you can get to. And honestly, this time allows us, if we're working from home, we can go travel, right? As long as you can get Wi-Fi and connect, you can travel. So another really important thing is warming your abdomen, warming your gut, because those healthy bacteria like warm. So I'll show you some movements in just a minute, but something that you can do is drinking like warm lemon water, right? Slicing up an organic lemon and boiling it, and starting with that first thing in the morning is starting to warm your abdomen. It's really good for your gallbladder. It's very anti-inflammatory, but it's warming your abdomen. The other thing is being careful of how much, like warm soup is really good. So I really go for warm, because the warmer our abdomen is, the better. And then I do a lot of movements that help warm our abdomen, because there's actually been science done that when you raise your internal core temperature 1.8 degrees, that's when you're really boosting your immune system, your serotonin, and your dopamine. Yeah.
Now, Dr. Steve talks a lot about being cold, though. I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm confused too. It's like, because the, like Wim Hof, it does all the work with immersion in cold. And there's been so many studies that it boosted his immune system. So I'm wondering if it has internal versus external, or maybe it stimulates warming on the inside when you've got to fight the cold on the outside. It's a really interesting thing to consider. Like, how are these elements playing?
Right. And you know what, I haven't really studied Wim Hof. I'm familiar with people that use Wim Hof, and I know that like that immersion in cold can be really good for your immune system too. And once again, we've got different tools, right? And people get to find what works for them. But in general life, I really focus on people getting their abdomen warm, because so what I work with is that we have a natural state of balance. Our natural state of balance is meant to be a cool head and a warm abdomen. Do we make better decisions with a hot head or a cool head?
Cool head.
Cool head. So our natural energy flow is meant to be a cool head and a warm abdomen. Okay. And in just a minute, I'll show you how we create that. So when our energy reverses, so when we're in that natural state, our digestive system works properly. We're going to feel balanced and grounded on our feet. We go to the bathroom properly. So often people are not eliminating properly. That's a huge problem, really big problem for kids that most people might not be aware of, right? And we feel balanced and grounded on our feet. When something happens, we don't freak out and lose it. That signals our kidneys. So our kidneys are behind us, right? And they're in charge of the water in our body. That signals our kidneys to release water, goes up to our head, and it cools our head. So our natural state, once again, is that cool head, warm abdomen. Now, when our energy reverses and it goes up to our head, we might deal with brain fog, exhaustion, anxiety, frustration, anger, and our abdomen becomes cool, and we will hold tension in our gut. Our gut is our second brain, right? And so it's always communicating with our brain and our head. So we will hold tension. Have you ever had something happen and you'll feel it in your gut?
Sure.
Right? Like when we hear tragic news or whatever, you literally feel it, and you can get a stomach ache and you almost feel sick, right? And so when we're holding that tension in our gut, it's leading to really what science is saying is that all disease is coming from the gut. So when we're holding that tension, it can lead to stomach aches, digestive issues, headaches, all sorts of different conditions that we're dealing with in our body. So what I teach people is to create this natural energy flow. And then I think it's awesome too, if there's these things that are the cooling, they probably benefit too. I just haven't researched them myself because I've been so immersed in the hot.
So Christy, it sounds like kind of like a little bit of Ayurvedic background, or is it acupuncture, Chinese medicine?
So my training is actually in a Korean philosophy and through a lot of movement. I trained with a place called Body and Brain Yoga that's all over the world. And then they actually have a program called Power Brain Wellness that's for schools. So I trained in that, but then I've taken out different bits and pieces and I incorporate some of that with the other tools. I've just created a toolbox and put all these resources together. And I always say, let's play with the different tools, kind of like what you do. You're teaching people different tools. They get to figure out which ones work for them.
Right.
Yeah. So would you like to move a little bit?
I would love that.
Okay, so I don't know if you two can stand up or not and still be seen.
I can't stand up because my whole
standing already.
Fall apart.
You're standing already?
I am.
Woo, awesome. I love it. I love it. And so I always like to start with a little bit of breathing because breathing, once again, all of this, really what you're teaching, what we're all teaching is helping people get present. Mm-hmm. And there's many types of different breathing, and I try to keep it very simple, especially because I work with kids mostly. But what I'd like you to do is put one hand on your heart and one hand on your abdomen. So once again, I refer to that we have 3 brains. We have the brain in our head. We have a heart brain because we have neurons around our heart. And then we've got our gut brain. When we put our hands here, it's connecting our 3 brains and it's relaxing this one that likes to be busy in our head. So with your hands here, we're going to take 5 breaths. I always like using this fun breathing ball. In through our nose and out through our mouth, really breathing deep to our abdomen, because we know when we breathe deep to our abdomen, it helps turn off that stress response. So let's take 5 breaths together. Go ahead and breathe in and out. And when you're breathing out, breathe out longer. In and out. In and out. In and out. And one more. And just check in with your body after those breaths. And what do you notice inside?
For me, it feels a little warm around my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I do things like that, I always feel like a little sadness too, like a little emotional feeling.
A little emotional come up too, you know, and you're become aware of what's there, what you might be holding. Yeah.
Energized.
Yeah. And what I love about breathing, whatever type, you know, some people like in through your nose, out through your nose, whatever fits for you, use it, but it's allowing us to pause. And if we can train ourselves to pause throughout the day and bring ourselves present, we can use our breath to do that. What I love about this hand movement comes from Dr. Dan Siegel, who's one of my favorite therapists that has a site called Mindsight Institute. And he said, when you train yourself to breathe like this, when you're calm, when a child is upset and then you remind them, put your hands here, you've already trained their brain to connect with their heart and their gut. And so I'll sometimes just be talking to people with my hands here, right? It's almost like you're giving yourself a hug. Right. And you're crossing the left, right. So you're connecting both sides of the brain at the same time. So once again, that breathing is always a foundation, that our breath will always be our first tool to bring us into the present moment. And so then next, let me show you how we can change our energy. So we want to change our energy from being up here. Would you say most people have their energy mostly in their head? Mm-hmm. So we want to shift our energy from our head. We want to open up our heart and we want to warm our abdomen. So a simple exercise for that is, if you're standing, go ahead and stand and bounce your knees. If you're sitting, you can do this sitting too, right? And smile, because when we smile, we release chemicals to our brain that make us feel good. Get your fingertips out. And what we're going to do is we're going to tap our head for a minute, then we're going to tap our heart for a minute, and then we're going to tap our abdomen. Your job is to just see what you notice as you do this. So getting your fingertips out, let's tap all around our head. Keep breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. You can close your eyes if you want to. And just notice what you feel as you're tapping. Wherever you're tapping, you're bringing your attention, so you're connecting your mind and your body. So tapping all around, keep breathing. What we're doing is we're increasing the oxygen flow to our brain, the blood flow to our brain, and we're releasing tension and tightness and stress we've been holding in our head. And notice there might be parts that feel really good. There might be parts that are tender. If it's tender, it's saying, you need to do this more. Now let's tap the backbones of our head. We can tend to hold a lot of tension there. Then come over to your temples. This can be a spot where people hold a lot of tension. And then come over to your forehead. Awesome job. Wonderful. Next place, hands like this. We're going to tap now right on our heart and our lungs. So we're tapping on our heart chakra versus our physical heart. So we're using our energy centers. So tap here and breathe. And as you're tapping here, you may notice your head starts to cool down and relax. So we're bringing our energy down to create our natural energy flow, our natural state of balance. When we're in daily life, we do not breathe deeply enough. So this is allowing us to take time to breathe more deeply. You're also increasing the blood flow and the oxygen flow to your lungs and to your heart. Do you notice your head getting cooler?
I do.
Awesome. It's just amazing. Our bodies are amazing. This is particularly good for somebody that deals with anxiety because they'll hold a lot of tension in their chest. And so this is helping to shift the energy and open up energy flow in their heart and their lungs. And our lungs hold the emotion of grief. So this is a really important place to tap. Now I'm going to change our breathing a little bit and tapping. Go ahead and tap right here with your fingertips. Keep bouncing your knees. And this time when we breathe, I'm going to have you breathe in through your nose. But when you breathe out through your mouth, imagine you're telling a baby, shh, and really breathe all the way to your abdomen. Get that old, stagnant oxygen out. And let's take about 3 or 4 breaths here. Shh. Let's do one more, getting out that old stuff. Awesome job. Let's pause right there. Put your hand on your heart and your abdomen and just check in with your body. And what do you notice so far from doing this tapping and that breathing?
I feel like I'm vibrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel tingly.
So we know that means blood flow, right? Whenever we're increasing our blood flow, we're promoting healing to our body. Awesome. Do you feel like you can breathe a little bit easier?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Totally.
Yeah. So next place, we want to tap right under our belly button. We want to warm those intestines. So bounce your knees. And I know this might seem like a strange place to tap, but did you know that 50% of our lymphatic system is right here in our intestines? So we're actually moving our lymph, which is really boosting our immune system. So that's part of the gut-brain connection. Now, while you're tapping here and bouncing your knees, turn your head side to side. This is a brain exercise. So keep tapping. Just notice what you're feeling as you're tapping, bringing that warmth into your intestines. So what we're doing is bringing our energy down so we can create that natural state of balance. As you do this, you may notice your hands get warmer. You may notice more saliva in your mouth because you're starting to turn off the stress response in your body. As we turn our head side to side, we're stimulating the vagus nerve and we're helping it to relax our brainstem. There's a lot of science to these simple movements. So let's keep tapping just a little bit more. Relax your shoulders, relax your body, just enjoy this moment. Connecting your mind and your body together. You may notice your body is starting to warm up. Let's just do a few more seconds here. Okay, go ahead and stop and put one hand on your heart again, one hand on your abdomen. Check in with your body. Notice if your head feels a little more relaxed, a little bit cooler. Does your heart and your lungs feel a little bit more open? And is your abdomen a little bit warmer?
All the above.
All the above. Yeah. Do you by any chance feel like you have more saliva in your mouth?
I don't personally.
Yes. And you might need a little bit longer. I mean, this is a short amount of time to do it to really shift that. But as you do this more, you'll notice that. What do you notice, Dr. Steve?
Very like kind of a coolness all around my heart and face, and then like a comfortable feeling around my abdomen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
so I don't feel the additional saliva, but I feel like the sides of my tongue tingling a little bit.
You got circulation in your tongue, right? And so really what you're doing is creating this natural state. We want to start our day in this natural state. Instead of getting up and thinking, what do we have to do? Take some time to breathe and tap and to create this natural energy flow in our body, get present, and then start our day.
Love it. How long do you recommend that people do that practice for?
That practice? So I would say I really recommend people to tap their abdomen really 5 to 10 minutes a day. We want to, and then you're going to notice more of that saliva. When you notice the saliva, it means you've turned on your digestive system. Right? So when we're in the stress response, our digestive system is turned off because our digestive system is in our brainstem, right? So our brainstem's in charge of, our breathing, our heart rate, but also our digestion. So we can be aware when we feel saliva in our mouth, right? We know we've turned off that stress response. When our mouth gets dry, that's a really good sign that we're in that fight or flight response.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so another just simple exercise. So a lot of what we're actually working with is the meridians in our body, are those energy flow pathways. So another really simple exercise you can do is just stand up and shake your body. Imagine you're a noodle. And shake for a couple minutes. You're opening up that energy flow. You're relaxing your body. I always say you're dusting your body. You're letting go of any tightness or tension you've been holding. So the more we can relax our body, the more we're going to be turning on our digestive system and helping our digestive system work properly.
Christy, let's, what I'd love to do is just, because we're getting close to the end of our time, but I would love to kind of have a quick wrap up on a few things with you.
Yes.
First of all, that was wonderful. I really, I feel great. Could we bring this also into the realm of chronic pain? Because, I believe there's a lot of value to people who are in pain in doing this kind of work because, again, increased circulation,
decreased stress.
Yeah.
Have you had any experience with like how this has impacted people in chronic pain?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more that they're increasing that circulation and they're helping their blood flow, that's helping their body. Then same thing, when we're doing these things, we're putting our focus into the present moment.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, so we're not focusing on the pain. And it's amazing, as you know, wherever you put your focus, you're going to get more of that.
Yeah.
And so, yes.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, have you noticed that when people are utilizing these kinds of physical movements, these mindfulness-based movements that also impact the parasympathetic nervous system and blood flow, do you find naturally start gravitating toward a healthful diet, like a more gut supportive diet, or are those two separate areas that they need to address individually, or do you find one has an influence on the other?
I believe when we start feeling good in one area, it impacts other areas. Sure. Right? Do you generally find that too when somebody's making a change in one area and it feels good? The thing is, we're going to do things that feel good. So if we can put things out there to people that feel good, it's a little step that, oh my gosh, that feels good. Like generally, people that are like, I don't like exercise. I'm like, okay, cool. But I get them up and I'm teaching them to tap their whole body, and all of a sudden they feel that blood flow and it feels so good. They want to do it. Right.
So I can imagine that all those bad bacteria are like, this is no place for Christy. I guess we're out of here, and we're gonna
then all of a sudden that I want to start eating healthier because they start feeling good, right? So when people start feeling good, they want to take more steps. And is that something you notice as well too?
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, a small success begets a larger success. And people want to keep going once they find some positive change.
Yeah. And that's why I always feel like you just start with small changes.
Right. Christy, one question. How's your daughter doing?
My daughter, well, now she's 22. And so, it's just been fun to watch the progress. She's, I've had to hand it over to her.
Right.
I've had to step back.
Yeah. So nutritionally, what did you have to do? Nutritionally, what was the main change you had to make when she was 11? Did you say? Or
yeah, I mean, we had to get rid of wheat, dairy. Really, we even had to get rid of fruit. We had to really watch any type of sugar. So our diet was really restrictive. She hasn't chosen to follow that right now, and so she gets to make those choices for herself as a young adult. And but there was just huge results by getting out anything inflammatory and helping the digestive system heal.
Right, right.
Christy, would you be willing to come back and join us another time? I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
I would love to.
It helps round out so much of what we're doing. And I love your enthusiasm, and I know you've got many, many more stories to share. So before we go right now, though, how can people reach you? Is there anything that you'd like to offer or share with others? Maybe another resource for them. What would you like
absolutely. To if you want to go to my website's christyjones.com. So see, as it's spelled on the screen. Yeah. And I do have a ebook that you can download, that's 6 tips for building a healthy mind and body. So it gives some more of the movements in there as well. So you could check that out if you were interested in that. Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been amazing. Dr. Tim, any final words before? No, I feel fantastic. I feel really good right now. Ready to rock and roll. Yeah, next time I'll get you moving the whole time, right? And we'll really move a little bit more, and that would be fun. But I love the work that you're doing. I have so much respect for both of you and how you're really helping people shift chronic pain. There's such a need for that. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I just appreciate it so much. Oh, thank you, Christy, and thanks for being here too. Absolutely. Take care, Christy. I'm gonna let you go here. I'm gonna say a quick goodbye to Tim here, but thanks, Christy. And Dr. Tim, I guess we'll be back next week, I believe, with another special guest. We'll tell you a little bit more about that as the time comes. And in the meantime, train your brain. Lose your pain. Take care.